Hello YouTubers, thanks for coming back again. This is the next video from my FPV series where I am testing my newly home-built 5.8 GHz diversity receiver system. It's loosely based on the idea by Bruce at RC Model Reviews, but was taken significantly further in design by my friend Jim Barnett across the water there in San Diego, California. He took the project to another level by designing and producing professionally made printed circuit boards. During this process, he revised some of the circuitry and added the ability for the unit to switch audio as well as video between the two inbuilt ORX 5808 receiver modules. My thanks go to Jim for his hard work and dedication to this project, and as you'll see, it works just fine. One port is using a 10-turn helical that I built to the design of Andrew McNeil, who posts very helpful construction videos here on YouTube. And the other port has a Skew Planar attached for omnidirectional reception around the ground station for a range of about 2.8 kilometers. Okay, let's get into some video and show you guys how it really works. Here I've got the FX-61 on my bungee launcher system. I will use the Ockbird auto launch, and it will automatically start the motor when the model reaches more than 5 miles an hour. Pretty much straight after launch I switch the Ockbird into GPS mode, just gain a little bit of altitude, and I'll switch it to return to home mode, which I do now. The Ockbird will circle the plane above my head at a preset altitude and hold that circle until I'm ready to take over the flight. I need to get into the chair and get the goggles on and get acclimatized to the goggles, so the model's still circling around in return to home. Time I'm getting everything set, make sure the recorders are working on the ground and that everything is good. Ockbird's still circling. Obviously I'm not quite ready to take the flight over yet. Now I've taken the flight back from the autopilot and I'm in the Ockbird GPS mode, which is like an assisted flight mode. Kind of dampens things down. So now I'm trying to get my bearings and fly out on a heading that I normally use, and I'm gaining some altitude as we're intending to fly out a distance. We'll probably get to a reasonable altitude once I'm there and I'm happy on the altitude and the heading. You'll see that I'll switch Ockbird back into balance mode, which will hold that altitude and hold that heading for the flight out. At this point I'm happy with my heading and my altitude, so I'm going to switch to balance mode now, and the autopilot will endeavour to maintain that altitude and that heading unless I put any other changes in, of course. That's my ground speed here is extremely fast. Not too sure why. Probably busy concentrating on other things. I realise that I'm travelling nearly 100 kilometres an hour, and you'll hear me throttle back. Still haven't noticed the speed. Bit breezy up there, hence we got the wobbling around a wee bit. I've just noticed the speed now, so you've just heard it throttle back. Brought the current back down. probably around about the 3.5 to 4 amp range. And that will bring the speed down accordingly. Settled in nicely. Forward trick out there now. The diversity receiver just switched to 2.8 miles. There's a slight glitch there, 2.8 miles from the Skew Planar across to the 10-turn helical. And from that point, or from this point, sorry, that's what I'll use until the return leg when I get back to about 2.5 kilometers out. It'll continue to use that helical. And as you see, the picture quality on 5.8 is pretty good. The transmitter is a 400 milliwatt 5.8 gigahertz transmitter. The thing that's not helping during this flight is the day, really. The weather wasn't the best. You can see there the picture's not as clear as it could be, and that's purely and simply down to the conditions on the day. Good at this point, seeing 12 satellites. RSSI is still very respectable. Incidentally, the control is the ORX, or the Orange long-range UHF system, and looks like the RSSI is still pretty high there. Antenna on the transmitter is a tuned Moxon antenna, which is a 2-element folded Yagi, for want of a better description. On the model I have a half-wave dipole tuned to center frequency, and it's out on the left wing, I believe. Sorry, the right wing of the FX-61. The bottom half of the dipole is constructed from a bicycle braking cable covered in a length of heat shrink. Well, what happens there, obviously, when the FX lands, because it belly lands, the bottom half of that dipole just folds back, and when I pick the model up, it just simply falls vertical again. So it works really very well, and the range is fantastic. So very pleased with the ORX LRS system. It's programmed with the open source firmware Openlrsng, and that works pretty good too. Making good steady progress out towards the coastline here. Just really what I'd call a cruise setting. Only drawing around about 4 amps, speed shown 50 odd kilometers an hour. I think there's a slight tailwind which will obviously be against us on the way back, so sort of take that into consideration on any flight. 6.5 kilometers out there now, 6.5 kilometers. Video signal is still good and strong. A lot of the time when I'm flying, I'm using my right hand to tweak the helical antenna. You might see occasionally the video signal change, and that's probably me just tweaking the antenna left and right for the best signal. But that 10-turn helical that Andrew McNeil designed works very well. I changed that one out for a previous design, and it's chalk and cheese. I recommend anybody to build an antenna that Andrew has designed and put a video on his YouTube site. It's well worth a look. If you're doing 5.8, you could do an awful lot worse than using Andrew's design for an antenna. It really does work very well. I mean, there we go, 7.4 nearly kilometers out now, and the video quality is still very good. So, although I'm going to make a turn here at about 8 kilometers, the system's got a lot more in it. I just was conscious of battery voltage. You see bottom left is down 11.3 volts. I've already consumed 1430 milliamps there at this point. I'm 7.7 key out now. So we're just gonna head to 8 and make that turn. We head back. Nice shot of the coastline there. Let's turn now. I just switched the model to return to home, and it kicked in, and it'll just put it on a heading for home. Now on the return leg you can see how hazy it was today. I don't know if that's a ground fog or whatever it is coming up there, but I wish it had really been a clearer day to help the video, but unfortunately it wasn't. So you've just got to take these chances as and when you get them. So we've flipped the 180 degrees. The Arcbird autopilot has the plane. You can see it's at the top in the middle there. The little house symbol notifies or signifies it's return to home mode. It's picked the throttle up a little bit because we're now heading back into that slight breeze. What we do, it's about 5 amps, and you can see the air speed or the ground speeds drop to about 30 kilometers an hour. But I'm just happy to let it make its way home here. It's sometimes nice when you fly out and you turn around to come home and do it, you know, fly and return to home, and you can actually enjoy the view and the ride, and it's a real nice way of getting the model back to you. So we'll stick with this for a little while. Distance to home coming down nicely now, just under 7 kilometers. Autopilot still has the plane. And the reason it's losing altitude, not holding, is because the return to home height is considerably lower than the altitude I'm at now, so it's just dropping its altitude on the way back on the return leg. So you can see in the middle on the right is the altitude. You can see that coming down. I think I have that set for, I think it's around 100 meters or so. I may be wrong on that. That's for when the thing gets back to where I am. It sets into its circle overhead. I think it's about 100 meters, and I set that figure just so that it's higher than anything around where I am, so that when it's circling, you know, it clears everything. So still progressing nicely. So about 35 kilometers an hour speed. Still only about 4 amps, which is great. The motor on this model is a NTM 3530. There's a 10x6 prop on there, and it seems to be a really efficient setup. I only carry 5 amp batteries. I know a lot of the guys that do this, some carry 10, some carry 15 amps of battery, but mine just flies with a single 5 amp 3 cell, and can get, you know, with conservative throttle, close to about 27-28 minutes flying, and around in the 25-26 kilometer range. So that ain't bad at all. Still progressing, coming down to 5 kilometers. Video is still absolutely solid on that 10-turn helical. Battery voltage now 11.1 volts. It's starting to flash because it's hitting 11 volts. We're still 5 out, so I'm not too concerned at this point. We're only coming up on 2000 milliamps out of the 5000 battery, so there's plenty to get us back there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the next section of the video to about 4 times its normal speed, just to shorten the video a wee bit and take it back to normal speed once we get a little bit closer to home. Now I'm going to switch from return to home mode right there into balance mode just to skirt around the workings a little bit. The return to home, of course, would have just took us straight over the top to home, but I prefer not to fly over that, so we'll just jog off to the right here and fly along above the railway line on our trek back to the start point. So that's me in balance mode at the moment. Yeah, got to where I want to be, just throttle back again, drop the cruise speed back and the current, and we'll just stay on the right hand side of the railway line and trek our way back along in this direction. At this point the diversity receiver has switched to the Skew Planar antenna. Probably did that about a kilometre or so back, and I'm in a position now where I no longer need to tweak the 10-turn helical for the signal, because the Skew Planar being omnidirectional, and at this distance out, I'm only just over a kilometre out now from start, the Skew Planar will deal easily with anything from this point until I get the thing touched down back where I am. again out of balance mode, back into return to home. That will allow me to get out of the goggles, get my eyes reacclimatized to the light, and take over the approach and landing. Once again, our bird's circling nicely overhead. Looks like I was right about 100 meter altitude. I've just switched now back to GPS mode, and I'm bleeding off the altitude and hopefully some of the speed. Thought I'd make an approach here onto the strip. There we are up ahead. Fighting a little bit against the turbulent air. And bingo. Safely back. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's my longest flight to date, and I honestly can't see me going any further, so quite enjoyable all the same. Thanks for dropping by. See you later.